Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? Raj, how are you? Hey, Shanghai, how are you? Hey, what's up, Worm? How you doing? Oh, hey, Johnny, folks on YouTube, how's everybody doing? Well, it's funny. I was talking to a bunch of people yesterday, and I kept talking about the levels that I use and where they're derived from. And for example, this particular level here, 6066, for all intents and purposes, are that level was derived all the way back from 2750, 2749 and three quarters to 2810. And if you trade the same instrument, it's the same thing. It's always the same inventory. And because it's not like a stock where you have insiders adding to the float, sure, there's open interest, but it's not quite the same. Usually, these charts, those levels are 5 years old, and our high yesterday came pretty close. Our yesterday's high was 64 and three quarters, and my level is 65 and three quarters. So we're off by 4 ticks on a level that's 5 years old. Now, what does this all mean? Not that the level is great. It means that these ES markets, ANQ, it's all just inventory trading, right? These charts are just, all they are is how we manage and track inventory, right? The accumulation and distribution of inventory. They're sales charts, right? So the fact that we couldn't take out 65 and three quarters meant rotation lower. And, I called out, I said I was a little late in the room because I was on calls, and I still remember shorting the 30s and then, it just dropped down into the 19s. That was a nice short. What we're looking for tonight, we did a look below and fail of yesterday's low. But I'm looking to see is whether we get some continuation selling downwards. We should, the theory is, if you can't take out an upper level, you rotate down, right? That's a look above and fail or a fail to look above. So the only problem is, you see this blue line here at 59.92? That's the poor low from Sunday night. Now, I usually don't keep Globex references on for more than a day, but I'm very curious to see whether that poor low from Sunday night gets taken out. The reason is I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a fairly decent short position here. And that's been holding the market up since Sunday into this week, right? So there's Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, and there's Friday. So ever since that day, there is the Sunday night poor low. And let me go, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. If you put in the evening sessions, this is that Sunday night low I'm talking about. There was a poor low here. And we went and looked below it and came back up. But I just want to see what kind of bids come here. Now, let's talk about what's holding this market up and what will keep it from just falling apart. One is that short position here, right? And that is indicated by the poor low. There's a structural reference. This is when Archie and Edith Bunker were fighting on Thursday. Okay? This is that move down, the close, subsequent move up. What disturbs me about this overnight profile, and we usually, once again, don't give that much reference to overnight profiles, but when I see weird stuff, I got to call it out. The top of this, that's where that position is underneath. So I know because the subsequent day profile couldn't get anywhere near 59.80 and it couldn't get down to this 59.70 level. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take this line and draw it here. And these are areas of interest for me, right? I should actually make them a little bit different in color. So they kind of stick out a bit more. No, that's not. Anywho, that's what I'm really looking for, as I'm looking for these lines, these levels to get hit. And if they get hit and we accept underneath them, then we will get, you see all of this inventory, which is above that line? All of this inventory that's, that's, all of that will start coming out. That's what we talk about, like swing lows and things like that. So for me, these areas here, if we can take out 59.90, let's call it a nice round number, we'll get more liquidation. Our low, 59.97. So tonight, they're still front running this level. Does that make sense to you guys? I know it's a bit rambly, right? And retail traders aren't used to thinking like this. But when you do deals for a living, and your job is to increase the share price of a stock, you have to use everything in your disposal, including creating short positions. So even though this isn't created, it's created by human nature. It's not like some guy behind a curtain manipulating this thing, right? Like when it's a stock, it's some guy behind a curtain manipulating it. It's usually me, okay? Or someone like me. But in a normal general market, it's just because of the mass crowd thinking of people. But the structure, whether it's manipulated or not manipulated, the mechanics are still the same, which is a very interesting thing, right? So if we take out 59.90, I think we'll get some liquidation. Until we take out 59.90, be careful on that position short unless you have a larger account that you can hold the trade. Because a lot of people, like there's our look above and fail of 66. It happened in the overnight last night. And then the RTH couldn't take it out. That is something that the larger traders in our room would have been shorting the hell out of that. They would have been shorting 60, 50, and using 65 as a stop, right? And then looking for that rotation down. Now here's where it gets, see, because these markets are built on so many short positions, and also because volume is very light going into the summer, and options expiry, and contract expiry, it's having a hard time. It's like trying to close an overstuffed suitcase. Every time we get down there, there's buying, buying, buying. And then the people who are selling, the wholesalers, right, they're not stupid, right? They know that there's buying under 59.90. So every time they get close to 59.90, you stop selling. Right? people think that support is created by buying, right? Support is actually created when size sellers stop selling, right? That price stability that brings in buyers, right? So anyway, those for the larger traders in our room and people who are trading swing positions and options and stuff like that, that's your big level. If that level doesn't get taken out going into, we're halfway through the month, we will rotate back up, just so you know. Because markets are rotational, right? They rotate down to find buying, they rotate up to find sellers. So if nobody has to sell underneath 6,000, nobody has to sell underneath 59.90, the market, like even here in the Globex, it's rotated back up to 60.14. So things to be aware of going into this contract rollover. Now, the volume still hasn't caught up in the new contract. Where is it here? So, old contract is 71,000 contracts. New contract is not even 13. So, it'll be a while. It'll be next week, right? Where we have, I'll probably roll it over on Sunday. I'll be organized this time and roll it. And if anybody in our room needs help rolling the contract as a video, which specifically shows you how to roll the contract and what steps to take. Anywho, okay, let's see. What kind of trades do we got here? Okay. My balance is 6,001 half to 6 quarter. Double it to 15 and 3 quarter, and then double it again to 34 and 3 quarter. So once again, overnight inventory is short because the bulk of the trading, I'd say probably 80-90% of the trading is underneath yesterday's close. We have sellers at 14. Here they are, right here. And VWAP's around 12. And as usual, right, right when we start our stream, it gets quiet. Let's see, how's our SPY doing? Yeah, it's chugging along. Yesterday looks like a big backfill. Let's see. You know, the way this market has been, it's funny, you know, I was away for a few days and I said, you know what? I got to come back. June's going to be a nice normal month. And then we had the Musk-Trump little Twitter war. Which was like some weird. It's like aliens have taken over the Fortune 500. Oh, man. Everybody asks me about wicks or bodies. I just use the top and the bottom of a candle. I don't care if it's a wick or a body or a twick or a Twix or Mars bar. I'm not a candle guy. I was telling somebody yesterday, I don't know anything about candles. So I had to find a way to use candles in a practical way. Now I know because when I first started retail trading, I bought that candle book. There's a dude who has a book on candles, but it's like thick like a Bible. And I started looking through it, and I went, "Holy crap! I can't memorize all this." And how do you use it when you're actually in a trade? So all I do when I look for this, it's really simple, right? This is like once again like hillbilly math, right? I'm looking for that high, right? I look for lows and highs, right? And when you go up and you can't take out that high, you come right back to that low, right? And that's really a balance. This is a little sloppy. I could tighten this up a little bit. But I don't care about the top. All I care about on a candle, and let me address candles because I don't know this whole wick body thing. All I care about, and most traders, all they care about is the print. Do you guys understand what a print is? The print is the transaction. The fact that it transacted there and the fact that it transacted there is all I care about. Does that make sense? All I care about is the print, right? I don't care what the candle looks like. I don't care the color of it. I don't care if it's, you know, if it's gluten free. All I care about is the print. What about the upwards and down dragon pattern? Is that a serious question or a joke? Well, like a dragon pattern, like in those kids shows? I have no idea what the hell that means, Arm Deep. Oh, it's a joke. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? We'll have to build some dragon software and sell it. We can make some money doing that. Dragon pattern. Oh man. Oops. All I care about is the print, right? And all I care about is where the sellers are, right? Right now in the market, there are sellers at 15 and a half, right? They're front running three quarters. VWAP is here, so we're just in a little bit of a rotation between here and here. So we're building a cost basis here. Overnight inventory is short. We're looking for correction to overnight inventory when London opens, right? If we don't get a correction to overnight inventory, we will rotate lower and take out these lower stops. Pretty simple, right? Trading should be simple. As soon as you start to overcomplicate trading, you it's just gonna. Hey Doc, how you doing? Uh-oh, insomnia time. That's not good. Look at that, a little bit of a buy order. Did you work the night shift? You're overtired. Oh, see, this is overnight inventory correcting upward, right? Once the position, so you get liquidating inventory from the previous day, the wholesalers grab it all here, right? So what happens in these markets? When it takes out yesterday's low, then the short sellers all come rushing in. So how it's very fascinating to see the sequence of buying when you create a low. I've got a video on that too in the room. That's where that first round of buying at the lows are short sellers. That's wholesale building a position on top of the short sellers. And then we come in. Now, this move, if we accept over 16, right? So that's the first, that's smart money shorts. This is wholesale. This is us, right? And swing traders. And if we get these big green candles, that's the people who are short here, here, and here, realizing, uh-oh, got to cover, and they'll start to drive price up and take these stops. It's the same every time, Travis. It's been the same ever since the first caveman started selling rocks to other cavemen. Shorts are always first to the bid. Do you know why shorts are always the first to buy? Because they're closing a trade. So the first people to come and buy a low are short sellers. Because it's a closing trade, right? So your risk is, right, you're taking profits. So you're not opening a position. Right? So there's zero risk here. So if I'm short here and I'm buying it back here, right? So they're always the first to buy. Now, how do I know this? Is because in my past life, I get paid a lot to trap shorts. Like if a company wants to do a short squeeze, they'll pay me a monthly fee and a stock position to go in and create a short squeeze. So when you actually buy in shorts, or when you're running a stock and you're talking to people, right, and somebody comes up to you to buy 200,000 shares of a stock, you know they're not buying it for investment purposes. They're usually buying it because they're short, right? Right. The smart money shorts are always the first to buy, right? It's a no-brainer because they're closing a position, they're taking risk off, right? All you doctors are trading at work. Very naughty. You guys are either trading at work or you guys are shopping on eBay. You know, like my girlfriend's, she's always shopping on eBay. Not eBay. God, I'm just dating myself here with age. Amazon. It's like all these Amazon parcels. I'm like, when did you have time to do this? Oh, we were doing a knee replacement today. It wasn't that busy. You know, it's hilarious. They're either trading or shopping. It's too funny. Oh, that's funny. Although the whole, the whole consumerism thing, they've got it so you could buy anything now with just one little swipe or a click. It's just like trading, you click to get into a trade, click to get out. That's why people overtrade. I mean, in the old days, you had to call a broker to place a trade. And I remember sometimes, I didn't have retail clients, but one of my partners did. And the client would call to place a trade, and my partner would go, "Are you high?" And the client would be like, "No, no, I really want to do this." And my partner would talk him out of the trade, which was pretty good because he'd lose money. We don't have that checks and balances now in trading, right? It's just click, 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 click. You know, it's much more efficient, but it's much more dangerous at times too. So, look above and fail of 16. What do you guys think? What are you thinking here? Ugh. That GME is the gift that keeps on giving for the insiders, Andre. They have they have worked that stock like a rented mule. Do you know how much money people have made off that stock, the insiders? It is obscene. Enough to buy a baseball team. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? They still do the video game thing, right? They sell video games in malls? Exactly, Andre, right? You know what I'm talking about. You know, when they were squeezing that stock, it was trading over $12 billion in dollar volume every day. Could you imagine selling 30% of that dollar volume every day? You could sell $1 billion worth of stock a day and nobody would even notice it. It was a thing of beauty. How do you spot distribution and accumulation? Well, accumulation usually happens at the bottom. When markets sell off, just like a used car lot worm, right? Just like a used car lot. Do we have news today? I haven't even checked. Ooh, that's very, very irresponsible of me. What do we have today? Oh, 8:30, jobless claims, right? Initial jobless claims, producer price index, core PPI. That's all at 8:30. Okay. One of the PIs, PPI, Magnum PI, one of the PIs. I haven't even looked at my email this morning. Oh, has AMP sent out an email? Okay, cool. Okay, this is kind of looking like a look below and fail of 16, but it's, here we go. So if you're long 16, 16 and a half, come on. Let's go. And nobody really wants to buy this market. The way to trade this market this week, and I'm sorry I'm a little, they finally got my blood pressure medication right, so my brain started working yesterday. Unfortunately, it took 2 days to start working. You're going to have to be a bit more patient holding positions. You know, the way kind of Doc does it a little bit. The fast scalp has not been that great this week. It's fewer and further between. We kind of have to wait for the cake to bake a little bit longer, right? I don't know what PSA is. Collectibles. Collectibles. What are collectibles? You got to remember, Andre, I'm an old dude. What are they collecting? 9 billion cash on hand. Wow. All right, let's see if we can take out these 18 quarters. Here we go. See, we had to wait for it. Top tier card grading company. You'll have to explain what that all means to me. Just explain it to me like I'm a golden retriever. There we go. Come on. See, this is the shorts realizing they're screwed and they're coming in to buy and cover. Oh, good. Yes, I did have that shortness of breath earlier this week. Oh, thanks, Doc. Oh, they still make baseball cards? No way. I had no clue. Hmm. And just as Doc said that, I swallowed some coffee the wrong way and started coughing. It's interesting. I didn't think that they still had like physical baseball cards, or are they NFTs? I gotta ask. Oh, really? Okay, sellers at 20 and a half right here. And this is that correction to overnight inventory. $1 million. I don't even know what a Pokemon is, but bless the people who are selling those things for $1 million. Don't hate the player, right? Next stop will be up here at 25. Right? If the ducks are quacking, feed them. Exactly, Johnny. Huh, interesting. I haven't even looked at Bitcoin lately today. How's Bitcoin doing? The old coin of bitterness. 107. It couldn't crack that 110 yesterday. As hard as it tried, it couldn't get over 110 and a half. Interesting. And on ES here, we are stuck at 21. Once again, we ran out of supply under 15 and under 11. There you go, Andre. There you go. The liquidity in these smaller companies and in these spec markets lately has just been insane. Absolutely insane. So rotation back down. Let's see if we hold the 16s. We'll do a little distribution here. Look at this. Yesterday, 35-cent stock traded $200 million in dollar volume. How beautiful is that? Unbelievable. Yeah, sellers are. There should be some sellers at 23. Right now, they're front running the 21s. Now, here's the thing. So, are you scalping for 3 to 4 ticks? I think there's a better way, Worm. I think you can extend that scalp from 1 to 2 points to maybe 3 point scalps. Now, I don't trade using the prop firms, right? Well, what I'd like you to do is if you go back into the education area, there's a thing here that says JJ levels. If you click on that, at the beginning of it is a document. At the very, very top. Let me just get you a direct link while we're just sitting here chopping around. And I think if you follow this method, you'll be able to hold trades a little bit longer. And that way, you won't have to worry about that HFT thing. No, it doesn't seem to be dilution right now, Audrey. I'll have to read it. Give that a read, Worm. And then the more you're on these live streams with us, it's choppy tonight and a little slow. But back here, and I apologize, I wasn't really that clued in. But when I said this is looking like a look below and fail of 16, where you'd be buying like 16 and a half, and you know that there's going to be a seller at 18 and a quarter. So if you take 16 and a half to 18 and a quarter, I think that's a perfectly valid trade for your prop firm. And then if you had like say 4 contracts, you sell 2 here and you sell the other 2 here. That's not a bad trade, and now you're not scalping for 3 ticks, right? Which can be a lot of work and grind you up a lot in commissions. You know? Also, scalping for 3 to 4 ticks is exhausting. So read that document. It'll help you hold a little bit longer. And I think that'll get rid of a lot of your problems. And all this stuff is available in our room, folks. So I'd invite you to please come check out the Trading Syndicate. We've got a 25% off code. And I promise you, you'll learn more in a month with us than 10 years anywhere else. And it'll be practical information you can use. You know, everything that we do is practical. There's no, you know, fancy mumbo jumbo kind of highfalutin nonsense. The stuff's got to be practical, right? Where do I put my trade? What's the business reason for taking this trade, right? And if there is no valid business reason, then there's no trade. If I get into the trade and the business reason goes away, and it's got to be simple, right? Then you're out. Like say you were long 19, right? In this instance, just for example, say you were long 19. The business reason for the trade is nobody is going to sell it under 19. If you start seeing people offering it at 18, 17, the business reason for your trade no longer exists, right? You know, and the other thing too is when to trade, when it's really choppy. And do you see how the like I'm not a candle guy, but I look at this grouping of candles and I know it's distribution from here. It's taking this product and selling it here, which attracted buyers so we can sell it higher. So these are little distribution rotations, right? So here was the accumulation. Who was asking about accumulation before? So this is when you accumulate the product under VWAP and then you distribute above VWAP, right? So it's nice to get this move off an edge. But when it's like this, when it looks like a barcode on a box of cereal, we leave that alone. So one of the biggest things in retail trading is knowing when not to trade, right? Because you don't always have to be at risk. You don't always have to be in a trade. You know, so the biggest thing for us is, hey, does this trade meet just like, the terms and conditions that I do business under, right? If the terms and conditions under which I do business are not met, you're not getting my money. Go away. I only do business on my terms. My terms is show me if I'm going long that the seller is raising price. Show me if I'm going short that the market's on sale. If that doesn't exist, I'm not interested, right? And the one thing that we like to impress upon you is be a price action snob. And I always use that example is if you ever see anybody go and pitch an investment idea to a billionaire, do you ever on those Shark Tanky shows, and you see like the guy like pitching the idea and the billionaires are up there sitting in those chairs. They look like they just smelled something bad, right? They always they look at the person asking for money like they've got leprosy, right? That's the way you want to be when you're retail trading, right? When you see a trade, you're like, prove it to me, you know? Yeah, Laura, the doc is actually a doctor, right? Yes, in an LBF, Travis, you get burned in the downtrend. I wouldn't worry about the volume in a balance zone. That's why here's the thing about the whole balance zone. And in that document that you've seen, Travis, the biggest thing about the balance zone is draw it and watch it, right? And it's good to be suspicious, right? You're putting money at risk. Suspicion is a good thing. But if it fits your trade profile, if it trades your execution strategy, right, don't worry about the volume at the time, right? So in a downtrend, the look below and fail, because Travis, the look below and fail is based on the principle of supply running out. In a downtrend, you've got supply being introduced because sellers are marking down price and competing to grab what little buying is at every single level on the way down. So the look below and fail, not a great trade. Does that make sense? And sometimes if you look at a chart and you're in the middle of a downtrend, it's kind of hard to jump in and you think you missed the short, then you try and go for the long and you get stopped out, right? That's just what everybody thinks. That's just normal human thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. The best thing is to let them sell it off. If you're not already short and if you miss the short, don't try and get into a late short. That's when we sit back and watch. Oh, cool. You've never traded futures? You know what? I like it because you trade the same thing every day. And I only trade ES. And you don't make money every single day. And it's like being a fisherman. Sometimes you go out there and there's no fish. But the nice thing about futures is it's a 23-hour market. So no matter where in the world you live, you can access it. And what I really like about futures now, and the brokerage firm people are going to hate me about this, but what I like about futures as opposed to equities is there's no stock borrowing costs. Like when you go to short, you don't have to do a locate, pay for a borrow, and all that nonsense, right? You click to short, you're short. Yeah, now if you trade the same stocks all the same time, that's a different story. Like I have a buddy who he trades three or four different stocks, but he always trades those stocks. And he knows them inside and out, and he knows, you know, and they do have every stock will have a personality. And it's the same. You get to really know it. But I don't I give props to people who trade a different stock every day, but it's just not for me. I think swing trading stocks is much is a little bit better. Like that Tesla buy it. I was telling people if it holds 271 when it came down to 273 that it should rotate up, and it did pretty well on that nice little shakeout. You trade SPY? That's cool. I should put the SPY levels in. Well, while I remember, how's the old NQ doing? Yeah, and in any one stock, there'll be, well, it's Citadel, Virtue, and Jane Street, right? There'll be, two or three market makers that handle most of the volume in one stock. In the old days, there'd be hundreds of market makers, but there'd be generally Knight Securities back in the old day, which is now Virtue, would have, 80% of the order flow in NASDAQ. So what I'm looking for now is, can we take that point of control, which is where the inventory is priced? Can we take that and move it higher and show good distribution? Yeah, I don't know much about options market makers at all, actually. Hmm. So, folks, before we sign off, a little plug for the room again. Please join us at the Trading Syndicate. If you like what you see on these YouTubes, even if the price action is horrible right now, come check us out at the Trading Syndicate. And it's not just for ES traders. We have an ex-Goldman guy who helps people with commodities. We have people who trade oil, equities. Um, it's a great room. We collaborate with people. We have people who are like, decent sized traders who are very profitable, and we have people who are brand new. And everybody kind of helps each other out. Use the discount code, and also we'll teach you how to use those Apex firms and things like that. Um, the funded trader programs with our friends at Apex. There's also a discount code in the description. And and it's not like one of those traditional trading rooms where people are pounding their chest. It's very sort of collaborative and it's friendly. It's very sort of it's a relaxed environment where you can learn. And we keep the price cheap. It's because people, it takes time for people to learn. So my big thing is keep your expenses as low as you can when you're learning. Coming back to 16. Well, we ran out of buyers. We're going to put it on sale. Let's see what we do now. Next candle opens. If that was just one group of sell orders, we should rotate up over 17 and a half. Let's see. There's 17 and a half. There's 3/4. Can we get somebody to buy the 3/4? There we go. Somebody's bought 3/4. Can we go 18? Right? There's 18. There's a quick look below and fail. How do we know if the distribution is complete? Two things will happen, Warb. One of two things. If the distribution brings in new buyers, we'll go up and distribute at a higher level. If the distribution is complete and we run out of buyers, then they'll put it on sale like they just did. But do you notice how as soon as we got down here, it brought in buyers? Those are the trades that we look for. Right? You were distributing, you put it on sale, right? So pretend that this level is a glass door. And when the sellers opened that glass door, they saw the buyers come in and they raised price. Now the buyers are backing off again, so they're lowering price. So if you're on with us, like this is the first time I've seen you asking questions and stuff like that, the more and more of these videos that you're on and I call out trades and we work through the mechanics of the trades, the more and more you're going to pick up on these things. So how do we know if the distribution is complete? Is the trade setup is a look above and fail, which means you'd be shorting now the 15s against 16, and you'd be looking to cover in the 13s before VWAP. So there is a trade setup based on when distribution is over. Right? So if we were short 15 against 16 as a stop, and here's that 13 cover, just like I said. Oh, good stuff. Look forward to seeing you folks in the room. And if you do join the room, remember it's month to month, so there's no contracts or anything like that, okay? When you join the room, DM me inside the room so we can say hi. Thanks, everyone. Have a good morning. See how they... We like to cover before VWAP because we know they're going to front run it, right? Have a good morning. Trade well out there. And if you have any questions, DM me anytime. Almost through this week. Stay safe out there, okay? Thanks very much. Bye for now.